Hello, Social Work 671ers. I am Dr. Brent Satterley, the professor for Social Work 671 Online, Human Sexuality for the Social Work Professional. I am so happy to be here today teaching this course, and you're in luck because I'm also the person who designed this course. So I know a whole lot about it, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. To start with, to get us started, you obviously are going to be coming to our home page. And for the first week, this particular course goes through really clearly and helps you identify and understand human sexuality from a strengths-based social work perspective. And so as part of that, you'll see introductory videos from me in week 1, which of course I want you to read. But this video is actually designed more so for you to be able to go through and take a look at the assignments in week 1. So without further ado, let's go to week 1. All right, week 1 highlights the beginning of first thing to do is participate in an online poll through Poll Everywhere. When you hear that word sex, what's the first thing that you think of? And respond to the poll accordingly. And those answers will pop up here so people can see them. Any words that you think of might be totally relevant. It could be something crude. It could be something professional. It could be something clinical. One of the things that you'll note is sometimes in this class, we'll be talking about things that oftentimes social workers are uncomfortable talking about, using all kinds of different forms of language. And that language may, in fact, be offensive to you in some way. You can follow the directions for participating in the Poll Everywhere poll to get us started. And that's a good way to kick us off and introduce us to the kinds of topics that we'll be discussing in this class. All right, so to begin, I always think it's good to start with taking a look at the objectives, readings, and media folder. And what you'll see here is an introduction, so you can learn about that, read through that. And then this will introduce you a little bit to the basic premise for this course, and that is the model called the Circles of Sexuality, designed by Dennis Daly. He was actually a social worker, so he knows what he's talking about, and it will highlight these things. You can read through the objectives. The required readings for the textbook are essential because a lot of the content that you'll be addressing in this course, including things like quizzes, papers, mini assignments, will be predicated on this particular book itself. There are all kinds of required articles. They are all succinct. They're not expansive, but they're designed to really expand your mind in that way. Here is the sexuality stoplight, as you'll see from the first splash page, is designed to make you stop and think about a particular piece of content. So I will be using videos in this course that sometimes may have some sexually explicit aspects in nature. However, it doesn't include things like nudity, etc., or sexual behaviors. That is part of often in-person face-to-face training known as a sexuality attitude reassessment, but that will not be utilized in this course simply because we cannot process that in a synchronous format. So for this course, you shouldn't be seeing any of those videos. Please watch my introductory video here, which will go through how we approach this course. And the various videos, Circles of Sexuality Part 1 and 2, will be essential for both assignments for this week as well as for week 6, and the Let's Talk About Sex crash course in psychology. All right, so those are good videos that you'll be watching this week. All right, let's head back to the actual assignments. All right, so to start with, we'll start with introductions. Introductions are basically, I just want you to introduce yourself, create a 2 to 3 minute video. Doesn't need to be a long one, just 2 to 3 minutes. What's your name, your reason for taking this course, and one area of human sexuality that really interests you and why. I want you to do this because I want you to begin talking about human sexuality in ways that are both professional, explicit, but also appropriate, in ways that we can understand and interact with you in this context. All right, and then post it to the forum accordingly. All right, next. Brave and positive learning contract, because we're talking about issues related to human sexuality that are always private and always personal and always public, all at the same time. They're also really sensitive. And so one of the things that sometimes happens is that people struggle and with how to have conversations about this stuff. So in that context, I want you to create and suggest one guideline that you would like to see from the class to create a brave and positive learning environment, along with a rationale for the guideline you offer. So it might be a good example, non-condemning comments. And the guideline or the rationale would be, in a world where people hold diverse sexual values based upon experience, history, and culture, expressing ourselves in class without condemnation for others' values is important to have civil discussion. And then that's from the class. And then repeat the same process, but the premise is, what do you want to see from the professor? One might be mediate, and then an example, rationale example from that. All right. And you're not required to comment on any of your peers' recommendations. I will then take these submissions and create a master list of our pertinent guidelines, including what I need from you as the students for us to follow this in the context of this course so we can have productive discussions. All right, number 3. The circles of sexuality, a values vision. So to start with, for this particular discussion, you are going to go back to the videos, the circles of sexuality, and watch both. Those are essential. You need that information in order to be able to do this, as well as other assignments throughout this course. So you're going to select one of those circles. In this context, here's an example, the circle of sexual identity. And then you're going to select one of the concepts in those circles, because in each circle there are a series of concepts. For example, there is a concept of gender identity in that particular circle, and you're going to come up with an example from your own lived experience around that concept and answer the question using the headings below to organize your posts. So the example of gender identity for me, for instance, was when I was a young boy, I was often teased and bullied for not being masculine enough. I learned from this teasing that to be acceptable as a boy or a man, you had to act hyper-masculine. That meant squashing many of the things that I enjoyed that were deemed too feminine, like singing, acting, playing with certain types of toys, etc. And it also meant not expressing certain types of feelings, sadness, but reinforcing others, anger. And then answering the following questions based upon this in that context. So, example, feminine boys are weak. What values do I hold about this? Excuse me. Feminine boys are weak. To be a real man, you must be strong and angry. That's what was taught to me. That's what I learned. How's what I understood. Where did it come from? Negative interactions with bullies, reinforcement from culture, etc., etc. How did I come to believe this? The ongoing reinforcement of these messages about gender really concretized what was acceptable for men and boys and what wasn't. In other words, I learned well. And do I wish to affirm or change these values? Why or why not? Here's the rub. In getting to know your own value system, then you have to critically scrutinize them and decide whether or not you wish to affirm them or if you're interested in altering them. I wished to alter those values because I didn't like rigid gender roles. That prohibited me from being fully human and also taught me about gender. And then ultimately, how will this value influence my work? I believe that holding such a value will harm other boys and girls in my practice. And gender expression is individual, culturally influenced and changes over time, etc. You get the gist. So I want you to, while there's not a lot of writing here, I'm really interested in this course, not with you writing tons and tons of stuff. I'm looking maybe for 3 or 4 sentences each. But in this context, I want you to show me that you're thinking critically, Okay. All right, now that you've done that, then I want you to skip week 1 discussion and go down here to the week 1 lesson, Curtis and Mark case. To do that, you click on that and, oops. Okay. Nope, I made a mistake. Sorry about that. And let's go back. All right, so this is what the page is going to look like. It'll start and it presents a case example of a gay male couple having relationship difficulties. And then it's going to take you step by step, page by page through their case. So here's the identifying information. You read that, then you hit the presenting problem, and then you read through the presenting problem, and then you get a chance to have conversation. What are your first impressions? And then you provide a couple sentences for answer, submit, and you take it step by step through that process. And you'll go through the whole case that way. And then I want you to go from here back up to Curtis and Mark. And then I want you to do a discussion answering these 5 questions, giving about the Curtis and Mark case. Again, this isn't expansive writing, but I want to see critical thinking here. All right. So you're going to be doing that. You're encouraged to respond to your peers, but you don't have to do so for this discussion. Forgive me if I'm going fast, but I want to make sure to get this through to you. All right, then you're going to move to a mini assignment, a circles quiz. This is a very brief quiz, and you will, it'll start here, and you will answer the question, and then you'll go to the next page. You can utilize resources to help you answer these questions accordingly. In other words, you can use the textbook. All right, and the last mini assignment, let's talk about sex. Please watch the video, Let's Talk About Sex, the one in your video resources folder, and then answer the following questions in a few sentences. Identify which of the 5 circles were really reinforced in the video, which of the 5 sexuality circles feels most familiar, least familiar, why do you think so, etc., and just continue to do that. All right, so if you have any questions at all, please feel free to contact me, and I am, again, happy to answer any of those accordingly. So this is our course, week 1, and I look forward to working with you. All right, take good care and have a good one.